I just want to give a quick heads up to the liberals and to all of the doubters because I want to express that even though they don't like what's going on and even though the media has been against them, everything Donald Trump has been doing has been causing America to win. The Trump policies that he's been implementing have been working. Anytime to me where you get black unemployment to the lowest recorded level ever in history. Anytime that you use tariffs as a negotiating ploy to create a new trade deal that is more beneficial to Americans, anytime that you are able to avoid a war with another country, such as Russia or North Korea, anytime that you're able to get rid of regulations that hamper entrepreneurship and business growth, anytime that you're able to put conservative justices in not only the Supreme Court, but in the U.S. district courts, anytime that you're able to reach out to black pastors like you just did a couple days ago and ask them what is it that he can do to help in these areas. Anytime that you lower the taxes on the middle class, on the people who are the backbone of America, so that they can keep more of their money and are free to invest it back into either themselves or into other businesses or their children. Anytime that you have the ability to begin to allow the immigration laws to start to be enforced, you would think that people would start to see how these benefit them. I just mentioned just a few things, but these are all things that Donald Trump has done. But yet, if you turn on the news or the mainstream media, all you'll hear is about the things that, oh, well, Donald Trump hasn't gotten anything done. What? There were certain things that he promised during his campaign to his support that he's been getting. The only major thing that he hasn't been able to really make that much ground on is the wall, building the wall, strengthening the border. But I don't necessarily blame him for that. I blame the rhinos. I blame the Republicans in name only. I blame the people who are in that party who claim to be conservatives and claim that they want strong borders, but yet they won't do what is necessary to actually bring it about. Let me kind of give some things that really stand out to me, because what you'll hear from the mainstream media and what you'll hear from people who have been brainwashed is you'll hear all this nonsense about how Donald Trump is racist and he's this and he's that. And then they'll have their moments where, they'll show the kids on the news at the border being separated from parents and separated from families and all this other stuff. And they like to kind of shame people and tug on emotions to get a emotional response out of the voting public. And it's been working, but the problem is that now with social media, it's not working as much. Let me tell you, let me tell you why I'm up here. I have to listen to and hear and see in my timeline about why some famous athlete, LeBron James, wants to call out Donald Trump as being divisive and whatnot, and being a divider. And it makes me upset because Black people to this point in his presidency has done the most out of any president we've had since Dwight Eisenhower to help Black people. He's done the most. He's done the absolute most. But yet, that's not in the minds or even put into the forefront of people's brains to see. Black people are actually winning under this administration. Black business ownership has actually gone up under this administration. Black unemployment is down under this administration. Black people are going to be able to get jobs that previously they weren't able to get due to him wanting to reform the criminal justice system so that Black men who go to prison don't have to get out of jail and not have access to certain kind of jobs. Meaning he believes in rehabilitation for all. He's the first president to actually try to say, hey, why is all this violence going on in the inner city, in our Black neighborhoods, and what can I do to fix it? What do I need to do? Do I need to send in people? Do I need to investigate this? What do I need to do? But yet the response from the Black leadership is non-existent. It's non-existent. And it brings up a point to me that I am probably frustrated the most about, because I believe that really what has happened is the Black community, in terms of our leadership, have been sold down the river. Now, I've stated this before, but even all the more as I watch what is going on and watch what is more prevalent. Black leadership has betrayed Black people. One policy that I've been quick to talk about and people don't like is the policy of reconstitutionalizing your police laws by borough. But yet Black leadership in the Black community has not even talked about that. That hasn't even been a topic. Not a topic of discussion. Instead, what they talk about is how much cops are racist and cops are out to get Black men, cops are out to do this, they're out to do that. But yet there's no Black leaders who are actually discussing how to fix this if it is such a big problem. Which, by the way, statistically, it is not. I know all the Black folks like to jump on board and say this is a problem. 16 men dying a year unarmed that are Black men. 18 dying in 1 year that are Black men. 21 dying 1 year that are Black men. That's to me, that's not an epidemic. I'm sorry. It's not an epidemic. Not saying that I always like when the police make a mistake and they shoot somebody and there shouldn't be some sort of accountability for it. But this notion that cops are just out here to kill Black people, it's nonsense. And it's promoted by leadership. And what happens to a group of people when they allow bad leadership is they begin to lose. And to be honest, and people can get mad at me all they want for saying this, but it's the real deal. That's why Black people are behind. We have the most poor leadership structure of any group of people in this country. Black leaders are consistently some of the only leaders that are out for themselves. If you go to places like Ferguson, St. Louis, to Chicago, Illinois, Baltimore, Maryland, these are all places where Black people have been in a position of power for almost 50 years, if not over 50 years. But yet, they've never been able to legislate things that would help Black people in terms of having police laws that make the police accountable to them. But yet, you guys have been in power for 50 years? Can somebody tell me how that computes? If you live in a Black neighborhood, you have the majority of votes, meaning you get to choose who your mayor is in that borough. You get to choose who your police sheriffs are and the judges and all that other stuff. You guys have the ability to choose all of those things. But yet, nobody's choosing people who will legislate things into the laws that will actually change things in their community. And it's sad because I feel like Black people have consistently been the group of society that brings advancements into the mainstream, whether it be in art form, musical form, physical form, by having the best athletes, entertainment, I mean, anything. But yet, we're the people who live the least off of this stuff. We make the least amount of money off of this stuff. Everybody else has ownership. Why? Why is that? It's because of Black leadership. If your local town doesn't have the police who have laws that hold them accountable when they make bad decisions to shoot people in the back or who are unarmed, it ain't white folks' fault. It ain't the Republicans' fault because they ain't in your district. Let me say that again. It ain't the Republicans' fault. It ain't the white folks' fault. They ain't in your district. And I'm using improper English on purpose. I'm going to say it again. They ain't in your district. They live in an entirely different place. Voting on people who make legislation to help their way of life. But Black people don't vote like that. Instead, when it comes to our policies and the people who we vote for, we're just ignorant. We just a bunch of ignorant people when it comes to policy. Don't know nothing. Don't know what legislation is. Don't even know how the government even works. Black people need a civics lesson for the most part. They don't even know that the federal government doesn't have anything to do with their local police laws, but yet they on board with the Colin Kaepernick protests and we need to be down and kneeling and all this. Yeah. Ignorance. And what makes it so frustrating is when you see the marketplace opened up by a president who's opening up opportunities again for all, but black people can't take advantage of it because they're caught up in some social engineering ploy to get them to be angry and offended over something that they didn't experience is sad. But for all the liberals and all the people in the media who are upset, guess what? Trump's policies are actually working. When you're not losing a ton on trade because you have to negotiate new trade deals, that's working. Whenever you actually call out somebody for manipulating their currency and you get them to stop flooding the marketplace without charging them the same thing that they're charging you, but whenever you start, that's when the deficit stops getting bigger. That's winning. Let me tell you guys something. I've never heard of, I don't understand how you can be a black person and believe in open borders. I don't understand how you can actually be a black person and believe in open borders. I've never in my life heard so many black people offended by illegal immigrants actually being subject to the law of the land. Meanwhile, if you listen to black folks on TV and all the ones that they put on MSNBC and CNN, police over enforce the law on them based on what they say, but yet they're in favor of the government not enforcing laws on illegals. Oh, when their kids get separated from their parents, oh, it's a tragedy. Meanwhile, if you go down to the hood, kids is always separated from their parents when their parents commit crimes. Nobody's crying about them. Nobody's saying, hey, let's make sure that Jamal and Tyrone don't get separated from their mother who was hustling coke because she got arrested. Let's not put them in child protective services. They need to be with their mother. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that. And that's what's funny to me. And to me, that's what really makes me angry. Because I really believe that this has been a ploy to separate the American people, and people have been buying it. But people haven't been looking around and seeing that the policies throughout the rest of the world, they're actually working. Like, hey, having the ability to be able to make a living off your own merits is working. The ability to have free capitalism in a capitalist society. Yes, I said the word capitalism, because if you listen to the socialist Democrats, capitalism is evil. When all capitalism is it's the ability for any man who has a work ethic and a skill and a service to be able to get what he earns or what he deserves based on his skill. Why would anybody be against that? Reason why they would be against that is because in the leftist establishment, they don't believe in men making the decision or making the choices about who wins and loses. The winners and the losers in life are always decided or should be decided by the men themselves. Every man is created equal, but not every man goes on to achieve the same thing. Not every man has the same work ethic. Not every man has the same gift. Not every man has the same talents. And all this country has done, if you're a true conservative, it promotes the fact that based on what you desire in your character, if you want to work hard, if you want to invest in something, if you want to actually put in the time and effort, you can win, you can achieve. But leftism, liberalism doesn't allow for that because they want to pick the winners and losers. When you start winning too much, they want to start taking what you started to get. Meanwhile, they weren't there when you were broke trying to get it. They'll be the first to tax you once you start to make it, though, and give it to who? Whoever they deem should get it. Any country that has those type of policies it's never worked. That's why the Soviet Union fell. It's why, and they don't like to bring this up, it's why Venezuela failed. Can't even buy food. That's why they all want to run up here, sneak over the Mexican border, and then try to sneak over the American border because it failed. But yet, you guys are glorifying these people who promote an agenda in which only the elites are in control of who wins and loses. And the only person who is against all that is the person who you're talking about, Donald Trump. The only person that's been against globalism, only president against globalism and against the effect of globalism is Donald Trump. So I'm sorry, lowering the regulations and getting more money out of your taxes, making sure that the border security works so that the elite can no longer exploit illegal immigrants for cheap labor, meaning they would have to actually pay market value for the labor that they're getting for American citizens. Yeah, that policy would work. Problem is that the American people and the American public at large are very ignorant. A lot of these kids, they didn't grow up seeing the Soviet Union. They didn't grow up seeing the effects of communism, which is what they want to now call this new wave of socialism. Really what it is, it's a nicer form of communism. Bernie Sanders is a communist. I'm sorry. I know Bernie supporters out there are mad. Bernie Sanders is a communist. All the people who decided that they should be taken from other people to give to other people, you're communist. What communism does is it puts the state above the individual, and it attacks individual freedom because the needs of the collective or the state are greater than the need of any individual. So it strips individuality. But yet that's what we promote. in the schools, in the public schools. That's what is promoted if you go to a college campus. But there is one person who's fighting against this. And yes, it's your much maligned President Donald Trump. So I'm here to say, if you're a business owner, if you're a daycare owner, if you're a hot dog shop owner, if you started up a new store somewhere, a new business endeavor, Trump's policies are working for you. Why would you want to go back or go against something that's making progress for you? Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived by the media that is trying to overlook all of the things that he's put into place, all of the justices that he's put in place that are going to preserve constitutional liberty. They're going to preserve the ability for religious institutions to speak freely and worship freely. The only president who has gotten rid of the Johnson Amendment, so now churches can speak freely about the political scene and warn people without consequence. Yeah, Donald Trump did all that. But yet, people are just ignorant to it. People are just ignorant to it. And that is why I believe that really we're at a crucial point. We're at a critical point now in which the people who love freedom, the people who love liberty, and the people who love the openness and the freedom that America was designed to give now have the responsibility to stand up and to fight for it. To stand up and to educate those who are not knowledgeable about it. Because we need these policies in order to maintain our freedom, in order to make sure that our kids are given the same opportunities that our ancestors were given. So am I a little bit upset about the state of the country right now? I am, but not for the reasons that you think. I'm only upset because of the ongoing war of information that is going on now. And the information war, the war to get real facts, is going to be the war that decides the future of America.